Wow, welcome back. Eight questions with me, Patrick from Have Cheetah Will View. I'm sure once the cheetah hears my voice, he'll be coming up to making a couple of passes. Um, I know some of you guys going like, well, wait a minute, weren't you already on earlier today? And you'd be right, I was. Me and Karen from Ocean Chick Films. We're here. We are interviewing Kelly Goody from 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 Britain, and had a great show, fantastic show actually. A really hot and lively chat, which we hope we get today for our guest, actress Monique Candelaria, who you can see in the description has done a lot of things. Um, that's just two of what she's done, appearing in Lovecraft Country and the movie Driftless. She's also appeared in The Wave, and which I own. And but yeah, I haven't watched that one yet though. I haven't, but I haven't watched it. And the Control Group, which we did watch and we did review. Um, so she has a lot of credits, and she is wow. What can you say? I mean, she can do anything. Leading lady, femme fatale, horror, military. Badass chick. I mean, you put her in any role, and she'll thrive and rule it. Definitely. So, and Monique will be here in about 15 minutes. This is going to be a little. This could be a little bit different interview. We're going to be talking about some things that I'm just going to let you guys know, and there might be a little bit of a trigger here. So, we're probably going to be talking about some things like you haven't heard on the show really before. We're going to be talking about the right to work and how the vaccinations have worked and how they worked for and against actors. So I'm just letting you guys know that we are neutral as far as that goes. I'm going to let you guys know, and I'll repeat this when we start talking about it. All we're doing, we're just talking. This is not a debate show. We're not going to be yelling at each other. We're not going to be flipping, flapping over anything. She's going to state her position. We're going to listen to it, and then go on from there, because she has a right to say what she has to say. And I told her I would we could talk about it. So we are. So if that is a problem for you, we understand. All right. So there, I got that disclaimer out of the way. I don't have to worry about that anymore. So, what I will do is I will talk about the calendar, because it's all about the calendar. So, tonight, like I said, we're talking to Monique Candelaria. She'll be here in about 15 minutes or so. Tomorrow night, we have Nicole Vegas will be here with us at 8 o'clock. A really nice lady. Really enjoy talking to her. She's a very nice person, and she not only is she an actress, but her and her husband are both very much into giving back to the community. They both are willing to help out anybody. They do different things for different charities and people and whatnot. I mean, they're social activists. I guess I could say that. Besides being an actor, and so we'll be talking to her tomorrow night at 8 p.m. And then Thursday, the 31st, we have professional photographer Holly Lynch will be here. She's a photographer and an actress. Holly Lynch will be here with us at 8 o'clock on Thursday. And then, of course, Friday, April 1st, we have Bill Obrist Jr. will be here. Horror legend Bill Obrist Jr. will be here. He has done more movies than probably the next five people you can name. He's got, as I speak now, I think he's got over 200 credits. He is a multi-award winning an actor. He's in touch with his heritage, and we'll be talking about that tomorrow. I saw that on his background, and I knew more than anything else. That's the reason why I wanted to talk to him. And you'll have to come in and tune in to see what that is going to be. Hey, Star Lord, welcome, sir. Welcome. So Bill Obrist has also appeared in the show Criminal Minds. He's one of the most famous guests or infamous guest, if so to speak, as he is one of the killers that got away. He has won several awards, more than I can list right now, including an Emmy Award. Emmy Award, yep. And he'll be here on Friday for a special show at 8 p.m. Yeah, of course, I gotta tell you, on April 3rd, we will be back on Al Lucard's channel for Friday the 13th, part six on Al Lucard's channel. So we'll be talking more Friday the 13th, more Jason on Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. And then we're back here on Tuesday, April 5th, and we'll be talking to film director Joe Leone, who's made a pretty damn solid thriller called Reap. And we'll be talking to him about that. I'm really looking forward to that. He is definitely a director to keep an eye on. He also has an eye for talent, casting talent. We'll be talking about the strong actress he cast in his film, which I'm really excited to talk about with him about too. I really need to do that more. I know directors get involved in the casting. I know this is all casting directors. I mean, if I'm a director, I definitely want to see what the person who I'm casting. I want to see who I'm working with. So we'll be talking to him about how he got his cast. And then on April 6th, we welcome the fun-loving Tasha Toscosa. This is going to be a lot of fun. Like I said before earlier, she has a line of credits that they're so us. What can I say? So us as far as our community goes. A lot of fun, low budget horror films, wacky horror films, and probably some good gory ones as well. But she'll be here talking about her career. She's appeared in movies such as Abaddon, and she will be also talking about Amber Road, which is actually, I believe it's either wrapping up filming or just about to. But she was we were going to talk to her about that because that looks actually pretty good. And then on the 7th of April, we have Lady Malvolia herself. Jen Nagel will be here with us. She is the hostess with the mostest. She has created Malvolia, the Queen of Screams. And we'll be talking to Jen. She's done a lot of films, both as an actress by herself, and of course she's done a hosting as well. And I checked out her YouTube channel, and there are a lot of cool little short films on there. If you ever watched the ABCs of Death, it reminded me of that. Really quick, 4 to 6, 7 minute shorts, all horror oriented. The one I watched was The Last Piece. Right up our alley. So she'll be here at 8 o'clock on April 7th. And I'm pretty happy about that. We have other guests coming up in April too. I'll tell you who we got coming a little bit. The big show for me anyway. They're all big, right? But one I really want to bring attention to is on April 21st. We have Christopher Moore will be here with us, along with Meredith Muller. They are the star and the director of the film Children of Sin. That'll be on Thursday, the 21st. And then the 22nd, we welcome back Laura Hunter Drago and Samantha Mocker as they're coming to talk about their new podcast, St. Mary's, The Children of the Stigmata. That's going to be a lot of fun. Hadn't seen or heard a radio play done in a very long time. It's all audio, but it's really, really good. I don't know if they're going to take that to film or not, like they did with The New Girl, which started out as a spoken word play, and then they filmed it as a movie. I'm not sure if they're going to do that with the Stigmata, but one can only hope so. And we'll be asking them about that on the 22nd, which is a Friday show. All right, so our guest, Monique Candelaria, I'll give you some of her credits because it's very impressive. She has done She has done a movie called Driftless, where she plays the forest ranger. Lovecraft Country. She did The Wave, which I own, and we'll talk about. She also did a movie, a really cool movie that I'm probably going to end up buying after the show's over, called The Banshee Chapter or Banshee Chapter. That looks absolutely insane. Has Ted Levine in it. Ted Levine, who starred as Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. So he's in this film right here, Banshee Chapter. Banshee Chapter. So looking forward to that. We're talking about that. She also played Heather in The Control Group, and she got to act alongside Brad Dourif. She's actually been in quite a few things with some heavy hitters. So we're looking forward to talking about it. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, that had Tina Fey in it. She had popped up in from Dusk Till Dawn, the series. Shot Caller with Nicholas Costas-Waldau, who we just talked about earlier when we're talking to Kelly Goody. We're talking about Nicholas Costas-Waldau, and there she is in the movie. So, like I said, she has a lot of fun credits to talk about. So she's got some skills, that's for sure. All right. Those who can share us out, please do so. That would be awesome. If you have Twitter or community tab, that'd be awesome as well. And I thought by now the Cheetah would be here, but the Cheetah has not popped up. All right. I want to bring attention to the review or the interview we had last night with Laura Talon. That is up and running, and it is doing really, really well. You guys seem to really like her quite a bit. She is blowing the doors off of it. I'm really thankful for you guys for supporting the interview, and I know you guys will support the interview with Kelly as well, along with Monique. You guys are in the chat, have just been awesome. I totally am appreciative for everything you guys do for the show. It's been a lot of fun, and we got more fun in store. And I'll be making my announcement about that sometime early next week. Tell you what we got planned for May, and yep. Hi, loves. How are you? Oh, good morning. Oh, wow. Okay, is it morning in the Philippines, right? Nice. All right. Got more people coming in. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for showing up. We have 4 people. There he is. There he is, the master disaster himself, Stephen from House of Horrors, rolling inside the heezy. Hopefully you got to book that guest you're talking about, Stephen. That would be a nice one. And hopefully you got to reschedule the Little Miss Risk. I'm hoping that happens for you too. I was so looking forward to that, and I know the time difference can be a little tricky. Yes, almost 8 a.m. Wow. Okay. And Starlord just woke up as well. Well, awesome. You guys all got up early just to come watch us. I like it. I like it. I appreciate that. Is that what happened, Stephen? If you don't mind me asking, is that what happened on Saturday? It was just. Oh, yeah. Wow. I hope she's all right. I, I, wow. Yeah. I hope she's all right. Yes, I'm with you, Star Lord. Though my coffee is not very much left. I only have like a quarter cup of coffee left. So I'm definitely gonna have to hopefully this will hang out a little bit. I should have made a pot earlier, but I was All right, so join me in welcoming our guest, Miss Monique Candelaria. Ta-da! All right. Good morning. How are you? Oh, there she is. Can you hear me okay? I don't think she can hear me. I hear her. We hear her. Yes, I am a night owl too, Star-Lord, for sure. Can you hear me okay?
Everyone can see and hear me. No way.
Yeah, I hear you.
Wait a minute. Let me turn this off until I can hear you because I can't hear anything.
Okay. You want me to? Can you hear me now? Let's see. Can you hear me? We hear you. I don't think she can hear me. We hear her, but I can't hear. But I don't think she can hear me. This worked yesterday. I promise. It did. It worked. Huh. Yeah, I'm not sure. I hope she. Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, yeah. But I did do the. We did do the test yesterday, though, Stephen. So this is not a Hannah. Don't say that. I know what you're thinking. It's not a Hannah. Shoot. Oh my gosh. Malik, can you hear me? Hold on, hold on. Uh, I think she's going to try to come back in. Yeah, hi.
Yay! I was like, I
Oh.
don't know what is going on.
Yeah, yeah. My good friend Steven was, he was no. We were both saying it's not a Hannah moment, and yeah. Okay, see, there you go. See, no Hannah here. Uh, we had a guest on. Him and I both had a guest, and we both got snake bit by the same thing with bad tech. So it's a Hannah moment. If something goes wrong, we call it a Hannah moment.
Got it. Now I get it. I was just like, what in the world? Like, I'm like, is it on my end? I'm all clicking all the
No, we
buttons.
can we can actually hear you. We could hear
Oh,
you, but you couldn't hear me. But we could hear you.
awesome.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, yeah, she's really confused.
No. It just happens that way. How are you?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
Not bad, not bad. I'm jazzed up with some coffee. So I'm ready for action. Um, I will say this, and I said it in the beginning, and I'm going to say it now just for people. Our conversation tonight will be touching upon some maybe some sensitive subjects for some people. Just want to give you guys a heads up about that. Um, it's going to be just a discussion. It's not open for debate or opinions. If you guys want to do that, you guys can go somewhere else with that tonight. All we're doing is just giving a platform to Monique to talk So I said I would, and I'm going to, and we're going to hear what she has to say because I think it's important. How you like that?
Well, it's also here to get asked questions, so I don't mind if people ask questions, or you do.
Sure. I mean, I just don't want them to start just throwing. I just don't want everybody to just like because it's
Get
sensitive.
hammered. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to get them all. I don't want to get everybody all fluffed up. I just want them to hear because when we talked, our normal 5 minute pre-show turned out to be like 45 minutes, and it was really an educational thing. It's just a mutual respect and both and showing passion and compassion for the subject. And I really enjoyed the conversation, and I picked up on some things as well, it's really sad that it is affecting people that way. um Especially when it comes down to threatening their livelihoods. I don't really particularly like that idea either. I don't think that's very fair. I think there's got to be a different way of doing it. And I like your analogy too. Your analogy is dead on perfect. I thought about it after we talked, and just like, she's absolutely right. You know, you see a romance movie and they go ahead and go for a kiss. You don't hear everybody saying stop, cut, and then running over there and running a battery of tests on each other.
Right.
uh,
Right. I'm sure everyone is like, what the hell are they talking about? So
well,
we can certainly touch on those subjects for
yeah,
sure.
but they will stay and listen because this is going to be a very fun interview. So the only preset question I have for you, Monique, is where were you born and raised at?
So I am born in Albuquerque, New Mexico. At about 6 months old, we ended up moving to Bremerhaven, Germany, in which I was there for 3 to 4 years. My dad was in the army, so that's why we were out there. And then we ended up going to Colorado, and we're there for about another 3 or so years. And then my dad had a brain aneurysm. He did survive, and we ended up coming here where family was. That way he could recover and recoup. And I will definitely say that my dad is the best and worst part of my life. I learned a lot from him, and I definitely take those lessons with me everywhere that I go. He was that person that could make even the most awful things like awesome to do. He'd be like, let's clean the car. And you're like, yeah, clean the car. And he's like, yeah. And he's like throwing on music. But he was very disciplined. And the only thing he remembered after his aneurysm was his military training. So he would wake me and my brother up just to work out, beat a bag, spar, work out in the front yard. We'd have neighborhood kids come. We had all the gear, and it was a blast. But he has his dark side too, and we all understand what that is. It's not like everybody's childhood is blissful and Pikachu kisses and stuff. We all got the dark side of that. So yes, this is my home. This is where I've been the longest, and this is definitely where I'm from.
So I guess the other question I should ask now that I know this is, are you a Lobo or an Aggie?
Lobo. I graduated from UNM in 2009 with a theater degree, emphasis in acting.
Okay. I had to ask because I'm not sure if you're into the athletic side of things, but my school plays in the same conferences as they do.
Nice.
Yeah. San Jose State.
Hell yeah. No, you got to show support all the way around.
Oh, yeah. Have you been to the pit? I'm sure you've been there many times.
Yeah. I've sang the national anthem at the pit a couple of times. So singing was actually what I started out doing in the arts, and then transitioned to pretty much everything under the sun. But that was my first passion. The first time I was ever in the pit was singing the national anthem.
That is so cool. Now, I actually looked. I just got to say this before we go back to the beginning, but I was looking at your credits, and it's just like, I said I found that you had done the control group, and me and the Cheetah, we reviewed it, and we were talking about that. And then I was scrolling up, and the next thing you know, I see there's another movie that I actually own. I haven't watched it yet, but I did buy it, and that was The Wave.
Oh yes, God, that was I totally know that. I don't even have speaking lines in that, but that's the first film I was ever cast in with my partner. So the woman that I'm kissing inside of the film is actually someone that I have been with for the past 17 years. We were basically pitched as a couple. We both got cast. So it was interesting though, because we knew we didn't have lines, but there was like all this movement in the scene. We're like, okay, like, how do we practice for this? Like when you don't have lines, like it's, it's a whole different set of, trying to figure out how you know your cues. So we basically recorded the other person's lines and we like mapped out. And there was this whole scene where like she's supposed to crawl over to me. I'm supposed to like pick her up, and like lay her down on this table and have this make out. It was interesting to say the least. So we get to set and they're like, all right, rehearsal. We're going to, go ahead and run through everything, get the blocking down, and figure it out. And it was cool, right on. So we already practiced this. So the dialogue starts going and, we already know where we're going. We start doing everything. And then so like I scoop her up, and like I lift her up to like lay her down on the table. And they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, that was so awesome. Thank you so much for your commitment. We actually like switched this, and that, so they made it a lot more simpler in general. But one of the gals that was there, she's like, oh my God, I want to be picked up like that. And I was, it's just all in good humor. Like all of us were laughing and enjoying. And sometimes, you commit to something and you do something and they're like, oh wait, we switched it like right now, but it is exciting to see when people just go in and they just do it. And working with Tommy Flanagan was exciting. And that was actually the second time that I had worked with Justin Long. I had originally worked with Justin Long in the film 10 Years.
Okay. Yeah, you've had some great co-stars. But I feel blessed. I'm definitely getting ahead of the game here. But yeah, you've had some great co-stars. Hey Timothy, how are you? Thank you for coming in, Azzy. I appreciate it, man. Welcome. So let's go back to, you mentioned, we have to go back to the beginning. So how old were you in Germany? I mean, did you go to
I was about 11 months to 4 years old.
Okay. So a little too young to get into the game then. So when you got back to Colorado, was that when you first started getting the first inklings that you wanted to do something? Did you do anything creative as a child at that age?
No.
School plays.
I would definitely say that I probably saw things that were supernatural. I do have a vivid imagination. I definitely am a creative. So when it comes to stories, I would tell my mom's the thing, my mom, the things that I was seeing. And she was like, baby, you just have a really active imagination. With that said, it's not a great feeling when people think that you're making things up. So I spent a good portion of like my childhood even just acknowledging like how do you fight something that's not necessarily there, and with that concept, like I've always been into supernatural horror because I felt like I was experiencing things that were in that area. When we lived in Germany, they had finally given me my own room, and actually we were not wealthy. When I got my own room, they actually got a mattress out of the dumpster and cleaned it up for me. And that was my bed. And I can honestly say that I never knew that we were not like well off or anything. Like, in fact, for Christmas, we had this like really long, oh my gosh, I can't think of the word, like plant that like grew along the walls. And we decorated that with lights. So that was our Christmas tree. So I didn't have like the notion of like what a Christmas tree was supposed to be. But that wasn't even a bad thing. And even that we spent a lot of time at home too. I basically watched The Little Mermaid 3 times a day, every single day for probably 3 years because I loved it that much.
Wow.
Yeah, I was definitely obsessed with The Little Mermaid.
You probably know I bet you still know I bet you can still do all the lines from it.
Oh, absolutely. Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Oh, I used to torture my entire family with that song. But anyways, back to that story. I started crying in the middle of the night and my mom was like, what is going on? So she had gotten me from the room. And as she was taking me out of the room, I was saying goodbye to somebody inside of the room. I have a memory of what I believe I see. But then comes the question of like when someone tells you also their experience, how much of it gets fabricated, right? So I felt like consistently I was having these like strange experiences, and through most of my adulthood, it was one of those questions of like, how do you fight something that isn't there? And honestly, I didn't even get my answer until about 2 years ago. I took about a year's worth of psychic courses, and for once I learned how to run energy and protect myself in that way. But anyways, that's probably where my love for horror comes from.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where my particular level of horror came from too, and it's like interesting. You mentioned your experience because I had one similar as well, slightly different, but about the same age. I think children as a whole, they're more open to to that kind of phenomenon. They're more receptive to it. As both as conduits and and or beliefs and being able to see. Uh, it's almost like the Polar Express with the little bell. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
once if you can hear the bell, your mind is open, but once
Yeah.
you don't, your mind's closed. Yeah, that sort of thing. Uh, so what was your first experience in terms of getting into the business? I mean, how old
Um,
were you when would you I guess I should actually go I bet you started writing really young.
I did. I wrote my first horror story when I was in 4th grade. I got a little award for my story. Um, Over the years, all throughout school, I was in enriched courses and participated in competitions and actually did win a lot. So it's actually really it frustrates me that I haven't been as active in putting my work out there as I feel like I probably should have. From the beginning, I've always been filled with tons of stories and things that I know that I haven't seen out there, and of course in areas that I genuinely enjoy. And so where did it begin? I started taking acting courses in middle school, and it was just participating in like school events. I was still focused on singing, so I started singing in funerals and weddings when I was 7 years old, and it was kind of a fluke. I had an aunt that was getting married, and she wanted me to sing for her wedding, so I sang in the church. And the next thing I knew, I was getting asked by other beautiful souls to serenade them on their beautiful day. So middle school is when I got introduced to the acting world. And even then, like I loved it. And I was, definitely knew that I had a skill for it because I was getting cast for bigger parts. At one point I was cast as the ghost of Christmas Present in the Christmas Carol. And that was quite the experience. And then high school came and I felt like I had a really hard time in high school. It's like I got kicked out of choir my freshman year.
Oh,
The teacher told me that I was, what did they say? I was a French fry and they were mashed potatoes and they didn't need a student that stood out above the others. And the way that my high school worked, it was basically kind of like a university where the teachers had a lot of power as to who was in their classrooms. So she moved me around to where she thought that I fit. I ended up not taking any more choir classes after that. I jumped into acting, and I realized that I loved it. It was at that point that I realized that I could have an emotional connection to people through bringing to life written word. Um, so for me, it was all just like this movement, this energy, this beat, this song, and people creating their own correlations to story that was stimulating emotion. And at this point, it was the creation of story itself, or even poems, and how the delivery, those pauses, those moments interact with those that are observing you. And then I became a dancer for Dance Dance Dance. It's a teen thing. It's cool to be clean. It was something that was local here. They basically a bunch of teenagers would go to the beach water park. There's not even a beach water park here in New Mexico anymore, but at that time there was one. And the whole thing was, you can still have fun and be clean at the same time. And that was the first time that I realized that I could influence people's emotion through movement, which I found really, really intriguing. So My senior year, I ended up moving to a different high school. And because I wasn't there the years prior, they basically told me that I couldn't participate in any of their extracurricular activities. So I didn't know what to do at that point. I was just like, okay, like I had too many credits. They really didn't know what, they put me in a whole bunch of freshman courses. In fact, they told me that I still needed like another Spanish class. And I was like, no, I already took my 2 years of Spanish. But the way that my previous school worked is everything that they learn in a year, we learn in half a year. So it's just a different setup. But essentially, because it looked like on paper I had only taken 1 year, they made me take a freshman course. And then for health, at the school prior, they coupled it. Health was tied in with PE. That way you would learn all of the textbook stuff and then you would implement it into physical form. And they said no, that was a different class. So I ended up taking like a freshman. I literally was taking freshman courses my senior year, and I was only there till 11 a.m. I didn't even buy the yearbook, and then I ended up finding out like I'm in it all over the place. And I was like, what?
Wow.
Like I was this dork with like this big blue jacket that I wore. And I probably made more friends in that school than I had in my previous school. And yet I wasn't even there but 2 hours out of every day. So that was interesting. So when I got to college, I excel in science. That's my.
It's a. Did you find that sort of ironical?
I felt that it was a good challenge for me. Like I always, I am one that when I set my mind on something, I go for it, and I do usually find like success with it. That was like the first time in my life that I really got hit hard, where there was just brick walls all over the place. And it was just like, why? When it's like an extracurricular activity, like it's just something fun. Like I don't understand why there's all these stipulations in place and I can't participate.
Yeah, I don't get that either. That high school, man, that sounded like not somewhere I would want to send my kid. I definitely wouldn't want that at all. And it was public schools. Were they public schools or were they private schools?
Yeah, it was a public school. It was definitely set to prepare you to go into college. So at that time they tested me, and I was part of like the science academy. I was in all like AP or advanced courses. It was good. I do feel that had I not have had that background, like I wouldn't have done as well at UNM. But it's like, so I wanted to do forensic science. I had decided, but UNM doesn't offer that. They actually only offer it at NMSU. So I was like, well, I'll take all the prereqs, I'll take all my science courses, and everything that I need to do, which I excelled in. But 2 years in, I realized that I was always like looking for a way to be creative. And even though I was good at it, I wasn't exactly happy. So it took me 2 years to realize that I would rather be a broke ass doing something that I love than do something where I make money and I'm good at it, but it's not fulfilling. So I ended up changing my degree halfway through to a theater degree. And that's why I only have the BA in theater.
Well, that's quite all right. What is it must have been really refreshing though when you did change it, and when you went to the theater. I mean, you weren't going to be instantly like told no. You're going to be like, welcome with open arms. As a student,
Right.
Man, I'm sitting over here. My mind is just blazing with their high school. If they did that to my kid, I don't know what I would do. I would be pretty livid.
My mom was livid. My freshman year, she even went to like the principal of that academy and was just like, this is completely uncalled for. Like she has recommendation letters. She has, awards for competing in state for vocals and, choir competitions and all of this stuff. Like, how can you prevent her from joining the swing choir, basically? And yeah, her response was that I was a French fry and they were mashed potatoes. So I have never heard that. Like, even when she said it, like I was just in the room going like,
what?
I think that's a compliment. Like I didn't know how to take it at all. But anyways, I guess we could fast forward a little bit. College was interesting because then I learned the dynamic of people's intentions. For me, I love the craft. I love the body movement, the aspect, you know, creating that intensity with your eyes without having to speak words, you know, creating those stories. And so for me, it really is about the craft of everything. When we're in classes and we're obviously having peer review, other people are critiquing you, you see people's true colors really quickly. You'll see people who, you know, students that belong to wealthy families that basically were, you know, they already know they have a job with whatever, you know, their family business is. So they're just kind of there for fun. So they don't actually work on the craft at all. And therefore they stay consistently the same. Like they don't change, they don't take risks, they don't do anything. It's just more of like a party atmosphere where everyone's like making out with one another and doing crazy, you know, and that wasn't my scene either. So so I definitely saw that aspect. And then I saw those that would break down whenever they were getting critiqued. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me. I was like, why? Like, this is something fun, you know? And then I realized, no, there is a dark side to the arts where when we are unhappy or don't like something about ourselves, there's something in us that wants to create something better. And there was a couple of individuals that were recreating themselves in what they thought was ideal, and not even reflected in their characters, where they were building something from the ground up instead of pulling from themselves, instead of pulling that authenticity from themselves. And when they would get critiqued on it, they would just break down. And it's just that they worked so hard to create something that they thought was better. And when that got, you know, knocked down, and they already saw themselves as not being, you know.
It's like, you know, though, I mean, when you're first starting out, you expect it to be knocked down a little bit because you're still learning. You know, I don't know anybody that slides into any profession, you know, and ready to rock and roll. You know, you got to gain a little experience, and you know, and even if you are really good, even if you are, you know, better than average, it's not necessarily such a bad thing to be told, yeah, you could do it better or whatnot,
Right.
because you want to create that humbleness, because not everywhere where you go to is going to be sitting there going with open arms, you know, and it's better prepare you to hear no once in a while, or not good enough once in a while, or you need to practice a little bit more, you know, than to just be given it, you know. Um, that's how I feel. I mean, you know, even if you're really strong, it's
Oh, you can
okay.
always grow.
Yeah, always
In fact, I
grow.
took a class where it was actually really neat. But what they did was we had already been in for a year. Most of us already knew each other. And for this first day of class, they had us in a circle. And basically, we just had to go to the center of the circle and say, hi, my name is, and then you say your name. And they can either mimic something that you did, or they could, if they knew you from prior, they can mimic something that you've done prior. And essentially what it was is to get like your core element, to see which element you naturally were, so that way they could see which areas you needed to grow in. So here I go to the center, you know, and I'm like, hi, my name is Monique Candelaria. And this girl, she goes up first, like, you know, it's her turn first. And she goes, what did you say? And I was like, oh my God, I do that all the time, but not because I'm trying to be a, you know, a jackass. You know, I don't hear actually very well. So I frequently will say, huh, or what did you say? And I do actually have an auditory processing disorder where I'm kind of delayed by about 10 seconds. So there is times where like you'll see me looking and it's because I actually am processing before I just say, huh. So she did say, she was like, what did you say? And I was like, oh my God, okay, that was fiery and rather mean. So then the next girl, you know, it's another girl, and she goes, Hooter girls don't carry trays. And I was like, oh, I did that too. Inside one of my other classes, we were walking around the room, you know, and they're calling out stereotypes. And at one point they said, you know, Hooter girl. And everybody like thrust their, you know, tits out and they put up their hand like this, you know, and I was like, what is this? Like, Hooter girls don't carry trays. So I knew that they were pulling things. And I realized that for a lot of the females, I came off as a really, really curt, fiery, borderline like angry person. And I was like, whoa. And like for the guys, I was more like goofy, jokative, and like I think one guy tried walking like me at one point, which I thought was really funny. but anyways, by the end, she was like, okay, you are definitely earth and fire. Like those are you don't have to try, you just have that. So for this, next 10 weeks, we're going to be focusing on air and water. So essentially what it was doing was pulling what your strengths were and learning to adapt them into these other elements. That way, when we get those characters, we can still make it fit ourselves, by knowing what our strengths are, but knowing how to adapt it to a character that doesn't necessarily
Right.
it's not a replica of ourselves.
Basically hone your skills on you're strong on earth, fire, but now we need to take you to to the air and water and make you more well-rounded.
So trust me, I look like an idiot a lot. Like when you're trying something new, you're bound to look ridiculous, and that's, to me, the fun of it. Like, I mean, at least it's a good laugh.
Well, I think that's part of that's probably part of the process too. Is to actually go out there and not be afraid to look like to look silly. It's okay. It's okay to go out there and because that's what the teacher is asking you. It's just and do it's the exercise itself is the test.
Correct. And also, I think it helped me in the audition room, because basically what I learned is that when I go, okay, well, one, when I get an audition, to me, that's like, I'm an adult already, right? Like, but someone is getting paid to watch me perform. Like, when you're a kid and you like go and work on a song or you work on a jig or something, and you come out and you're like, Mom, look, they're not paying you. But yet it's still fun to do this little, performance for them. So when I get an audition, it actually feels a lot like that for me. And because of those classes of just making a decision, making a solid decision, and just committing to that decision, regardless of what everyone else thinks, because there's bound to be someone who doesn't like your work, so it's just commit to what you feel, and win them over by being authentic. So whenever I get an audition, I'm not trying to think about, well, what do they want, or what are the past projects they've been on, or who have they worked with, and if I can be like this person. No. Like, we're all different, and no one could be me better than me. So why am I going to go and try being somebody else when they're the best version of themselves for themselves?
Exactly.
So for me, like, I'm like, this is just great playtime, but I will see others completely psych themselves out, where they're like, oh, it's across from this person, and oh, I need this role. Like, this would be a great role, like, it's starting. And I'm like, whoa, calm down. That desperate feeling, that feeling of need, is exactly the energy that they're going to pick up on, regardless of what you do.
Yeah.
You have to just go in and perform, and that's
Yeah.
it.
That's funny. We had our guest on last night, Laura Talayan, and she was saying that too. She says when she was down in LA and she got down there, and she's pretty soon she could start sensing, she could sense it and see it, an air of desperation around people. They're getting desperate, trying to break in, trying to get it, trying to get apart, or anything. And he said, pretty soon you start smelling that, you start seeing it and smelling it, and it's you don't want to be around it because you're afraid of it. You're like, I don't want to be around that. It's negative. So yeah, I mean, look, I mean, as far as going out for parts and not getting them, or like you really want a part, you really want it, you think you're great for it, and if you don't get it, that's okay too.
Mhm.
How did you? I mean, when you were at the theater at New Mexico, I mean, did you have to audition for your parts there, or were they assigned to you? Did they ever teach you how to did you ever take a class, or there at school or after school? Did you ever take a class to audition? Did they
Yeah.
ever teach? Did they
So,
teach you how to accept saying being told no?
well, I think I think the reason why classes are good in general is because you get told no frequently. So I do think that it's beneficial for anybody to be in that environment and to get told no a lot, of that you're not, you put all this hard work in, and even for them to be like, that was great, but let's do it like this, because it just allows you to leave room to explore and not always think that you're right. Um, as far as learning how to audition for things, this will actually lead into some of the stuff that I've done, but one of my teachers, his name was Chad Brummett. He actually was in charge of the area called Entering the Profession. And basically his entire course was geared towards how do we actually break in? So what kind of headshots do we need? What different types of headshots are used depending on the work that you're going for? What type of actor are you? Are you a leading actor? Are you a character actor? Which is a very valid question.
Yeah. If I could just interrupt just 1 second. I
Sure.
want you to hear this. Can you see the chat where you're at?
No.
Okay, let me catch up on some of this because I think you want to hear it.
Okay.
They're commenting about this high school. They're lost, Monique. That teacher is probably making French fries now. That teacher will obviously not very good. Yeah, that's not a very good teacher. Let's see. When you're a French fry, others just need to catch up. Yeah.
That was a good one.
Okay. Let's see. There we go. Timothy's mentions your work is awesome. Driftless was great as Ranger Nova. You almost had a mystical skill. I want to see that movie too. I want to see that, and I also want to see Banshee Chapter. So I'm going shopping after this. Just let you know. So yeah, people are commenting. I might interrupt once in a while just to let you know what they're saying because
really that's great. I'm actually kind of sad that it's not popping up for me. But yes, just let me know.
Yeah. Let's see. Star Wars mentioning Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Legend of Korra. Yep. Okay. At least you didn't say the Last Airbender. That's what I was expecting. So
that would have still been awesome though.
Yeah. It's like, okay. I like the French fry though. All right. I'm sorry. I just want you to hear that.
No, that's so this actually kind of all lead in and also into the Banshee chapter. So Chad Brummett actually for that entire course at UNM basically taught the difference between auditioning for a one-liner where you're a transitional character, five-liner where you're still technically in that category of transitional character, the difference of auditioning for a co-star role, which is sometimes just one line. If you're lucky, it's a little bit more than that, guest star role, and then finally a series lead. And what the different work is and basically what your purpose is to move the story along. And I do feel that sometimes, unless someone was taught that, right? Like it's not just common sense. Like you do need somebody to teach you that while there's no such thing as a small part, there is something that you should know on how to also move the story along. So a lot of the times I will see that, someone will have one line and they're like way overthinking it, right? Like they're trying to add like this whole character, all this stuff. And it's like, really, you should just bring yourself. You just brought yourself in, if you're right for that part and you're authentic, like it'll be good for you. But yes, so Chad Brummett was like the teacher. He even taught, like, we had to do a whole thing on doing stand-up comedy, learning how to write like content for ourselves and like finding work or like around town. So ironically, for now I'm moving forward, sorry, the Banshee chapter. I went in for an audition for one of the other parts in the Banshee chapter for the wife, actually. And I was out waiting in the hall and the casting director comes out and she was just like, Monique, she's like, I'd like you to take a look at this. She's like, there isn't dialogue per se. She's like, and you would have to be okay with performing naked. But I would like you to let me know if you're okay with this. And then if you're okay, then you can audition. So I was like, right at the beginning of my career, I was just like, man, I had gone for so many whore, prostitute parts, like somebody's and I really did have this thing where, like, I think the human body, it's a part of the anatomy. I really wish people would just see it that way. It's basically a blank canvas to be worked on, sculpted, created to whatever you see fit in whatever storytelling. But I was like, okay, if it's like just gratuitous and there's some like, chick being naked just for the sake of it, like, no, So anyways, like I look at it and it's like, no, like, yes, I'm naked for a portion of it, but I'm dead on a morgue table. So it's not sexy at all. And I was like, okay, I'm okay with that. And basically the scene is that for this audition scene, I was supposed to be seeing something in the room, hallucinating that it was getting closer, 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 closer until it was basically like right up on me. So it was kind of neat. Like I get in there, and Angelique Mid-Thunder is a wonderful casting director here. She's given me so many opportunities for characters that do not fit me at all. In fact, the character description for that part was a blonde hair, blue-eyed, 15-year-old Caucasian female. And here I was auditioning for it. You know, so anyways, she was like, you can use any part of the room, you know, just go ahead and fill it out. Let me know what you need. And then let me know when you're ready. It's like, okay. So again, like I said, there's no lines. Literally, it's a screen. So I mapped it out, map. This thing comes at me, you know, and I asked to use one of the couches. And if there's one thing I'm good at, it's screaming. So you will see that in the Banshee chapter. But anyways, like, I mean, you could just see like her where she was just like, okay, you know, and then I walked out and like everybody looked at me like, what the,
Go ahead.
like, what just happened? You know, so I was obviously cast for that part. Well, anyways, I didn't learn until later that the doctor is Chad Brummett. And here I am naked on the morgue table, you know, with one of my favorite teachers, but a teacher nonetheless. So this was the first time that I was having that experience of, you know, really moving from being a student to a colleague and really actually bringing a story to life, regardless of how clothed you are, essentially. You know, so that was truly an experience. And in fact, even that scene, I did post a picture, if you look on Instagram, inside that little thing where you were like, that looks like a actual like head wound. So they did put on like a wig that they cut out like a piece of it, and they actually created like an encasing where they put real pig brains. So when they're doing that surgery where they're like opening up my head, it was real pig brains. Well, they didn't account for the fact that real pig brains absorb blood. So here they kept pouring like this blood on it, and it just kept soaking it all up. So they're like, we can't get the blood to stay. It just keeps soaking it up, you know. And also with that scene, it was interesting because, you know, they're painting me to look, you know, like a dead corpse, you know, and there's this whole conversation of what color are nipples when you're dead, you know, like. And I was like, I think that depends on what color they started out with, right? Like, I mean, it depends on what color your nipples are to start with.
Yeah, it's all Quincy to me. I have no idea.
So they ended up like putting them like this purplish blue color, you know, and, you know, they were working on all the veins and the colors and all this stuff. And then when you watch the movie, all those scenes are black and white. So had they have known that it was going to be black and white, the color palette would have been completely different. You know, so it was so interesting to like have all of this attention to detail on something that essentially would not matter later because of the filter that they were going to put it through.
Let's see, a couple more comments here. Let's go up there and scroll up here. Let's see. Al has mentioned, Banshee chapter has been on my watch list for a while now. Definitely need to check it out. Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely want to see that. You had a great cast in that.
I loved my part. I do have a horror story though from that though. So I wore contacts because back then I needed glasses. And so I had my contacts in because I couldn't see without them. I can't exactly wear my glasses. Well, anyways, they put blood beneath my eye to make it look like my eyes were hemorrhaging, that they were bleeding. Well, they accidentally got some of the blood in my actual eyeball, you know, and it didn't hurt. It didn't sting. It wasn't painful in any way, you know, so it actually just stained my contact pink. So it really looked creepy, like super creepy. So I was like, okay, like it looks even creepier. It's not hurting me. I can still see. So we're good. So we worked all that evening. I get home and, you know, I go to do my routine. I go to pull out the contact. Well, I completely spaced that blood has sugar in it. So the sugar inside of the blood glued the contact to my eye. So when I went to pull it out, all of a sudden a piece of my eye came up with my finger. And I was like, holy, like I freaked out. So here I am, like 22 years old, you know, and here I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, I'm 100% certain I just saw, you know, a finger, or like my finger with a piece of my eye on it. And she's like, wait, what? And I was like, look, my finger came up and a piece of my eye was on my finger, you know, and she was like, are you kidding me? So here I am, you know, bringing my mom with me to the eye doctor, which I'm clearly old enough to go by myself. But anyway, she goes with me and I'm telling the eye doctor what happened, you know, and he's like, no, it just looks irritated. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, I know I saw something come up with my finger. And he's like, oh, let me see. So he goes and gets a Q-tip and he puts it next to my eye and he twists it and a whole flap of my eye goes over the Q-tip. And if my mom wasn't there to like verify this story, like I know it sounds absolutely absurd. And he's like, oh yeah, you definitely have like a lesion. And so I was banned from wearing contacts for 2 months and I still needed to be on set that evening. And I was supposed to be taking direction from the director through this like glass wall. So I sincerely could not see him while I was performing, you know, so that was a whole other challenge. And a long story short is, to the end of what happened with my eye, I ended up getting cast in another film within that 2 month span. It was called Dark Around the Stars. And there's a scene where I'm in a helicopter and we're crashing and I'm supposed to be taking direction from a director outside of the helicopter. And I can't see him. Are you kidding? Everything's just a blob, you know? So I'm like trying to follow the back of the heads of like everyone else inside of the helicopter. So when I finally could wear my contacts, my mom was like, you know what, since you had them off, she's like, I'm going to go ahead and get you LASIK surgery as my gift to you, you know, for your birthday coming up this next month. And, you know, so my mom ended up getting me LASIK surgery and my eyes have been perfect ever since.
Oh, wow, that would have been terrifying. And someone who wears glasses and is nearsighted, that's all hell. I'm just like cringing inside.
Yeah, I know it's scary and it's frustrating as a performer to be like, you know, I do want to listen and pay attention, but when you're looking out and you can't see anyone's face, just a blob of colors, you
really can't broadcast that either.
Yeah,
you know, you can't sit there and say, oh, by the way, I can't see shit, and you know, I'm sure, you know, it's like, you fought hard for the part. The last thing you do is want to go in there and say, oh, by the way, I hurt myself and I can't see where shit, you know,
right.
That's, you know, you don't want to, yeah. Here's another comment real quick. This is good comments from Two Boys and Their Pops. What helped you prepare or get into character for the role in Sense? You know what? A lot of people have watched your work. I'm seeing this. This is insane.
Oh, that makes me feel good. Awesome. Thank you.
I love this.
So Sense was really a beautiful opportunity for me. It was almost like flipping the script. So my mom had me at 16 years old. Obviously, like I'm kind of a hard-headed, ornery individual. So I will not say that I made my mom's life easy. So she was very strict and she is a very strong Hispanic woman. So anyways, here's the script. And basically I'm playing a character that's 28 years old, that's the mother of a mathematical genius. And realizing that, you know, you're doing everything in your power to, you know, raise your child to be the best that they can possibly be, but they're literally smarter than you, you know, and everything that the character is going through as far as in that script, it was actually a really rough script for me because the character was mistreated a lot. The daughter really gave her a hard time. You know, there was this element that she is literally smarter than me. I'm trying to go to medical school, you know, and basically she's telling me you haven't been able to make it in for so long. Like, why do you even keep trying? You know, and then also just adapting the script also to like that underlayer of what I grew up with. Like, so I know my mom loves me and now she's my best friend, but growing up, me and my mom definitely butted heads. Like, she is an Aries and she is fiery. And I know that I couldn't backtalk a lot like the daughter inside of the script, you know. So really, like, I really had to sit down and be like, how do we adapt? Like, how do people adapt from one thing to another as far as breaking the cultural rules, or what they culturally grew up with, and I think that what I ultimately like got to the point of for sense was that when you feel like you've been banished from your family and you make a decision to be better, like to choose to actively make decisions that make you a better person, sometimes it goes against every grain in your fiber, but because you've made this commitment to yourself, you're sticking it through. And that's where I was at, that even though it went against every grain of my fiber not to respond the way that my mom did with me, to make a different decision. So I felt blessed with that role. And I think in many ways, like, the character was the soft side of myself in life, and what I do think I would do if I was trying my best to raise, a really well-rounded human being who happens to be a genius.
Yeah, obviously you were extremely bright as a child, and I do think that does cause conflict with parents and kids. When a kid is brighter than they should be at that time. Because and they're aware of that. It does cause some tension. It definitely does. A parent may be more blue collar or whatnot, in their outlook on life, and the kid could be more, brighter, more, instead of seeing how things work, they're the ones that are making the things work, they're creating it. So I definitely can see that, and definitely feel like, I'm not a parent myself, but I helped raise two brothers, and I saw that, they were both pretty bright, and and I saw that they gave my mom, I saw the conflict between them. I saw actually me and my mother as well. We were both like that, and it's a weird dynamic. When someone knows that they're brighter, or even brighter than their parent. They know more than their parent. They're better educated. There's more resources out there, and everything else. And I think a lot of times parents react because, they're, and part of it because they're probably a little bit intimidated by it.
Sure.
So, so Banshee, what did your parents feel like when you told your mom that when you had to do Banshee chapter, that was your, I'm just surprised to the casting.
And that I was going to be naked for it? Is that what you're asking?
I'm just asking how that went. It's like she came out there and says, yes, you can audition for this role only if you get naked. It's just like, only if,
it's like, exactly like that. But yes, that was prerequisite. So my mom knows that I don't see like the naked body as anything that should be seen as taboo. She knows that I, in general, am, how do I word this? Yes, can I be a very like sexualized like individual, and I'm human for sure. But when it comes to the craft, I do think that vulnerability in expressing yourself in all of your form is a viable tool to tell a story. And then we'll see that also with Lovecraft Country, when we decide to talk about that. But my mom actually, I think because I wasn't like in a scene where I was like having gratuitous sex with somebody, with also no dialogue and no point like in the film, like I think it definitely didn't go over badly. In fact, there is a funny story with that. So, the Banshee chapter finally came out. So I did it in 2010. It came out in 2013. My grandma, so actually I call her grandma. She's my auntie. She's the first of 10 kids, and she raised my mom. My mom's the baby of 10. And so she is my grandma. But anyways, I walked in and she's like, I watched the Banshee chapter. I was like, did you, grandma? And she's like, yeah. She's like, I had to keep rewinding your part because I thought you had such bigger boobs than that. I took a picture of Hermione, like to be like, well, where's her boobs? Like, I know she has boobs. I was like, wait a minute, I'm on my back, and they like put all this like dead makeup. So it was like the funniest thing to like have to defend the fact that like I look like I have no tits at all, you know. It's just like, but that's when you know, like we're all open. It's not like my family is not the type to be like, oh my God, you know, God forbid you show any part of yourself, you know. Of course, like be reasonable, you know, have standards, have your own morals, have your values, but no, they were funny. It definitely was good conversation. We laughed for hours.
Let's see. I'm gonna save that one for a little later, Timothy. That's a good question. I'll say that one for a little later. Let's see. Yeah, we'll say that one a little bit. Um, okay, so let's go on. This is so much fun. All right, so that's a good that you know that was your first. Now, do you get a chance to act any scenes out with Ted Levine? Ted Levine was he in
No.
no? Oh, wow. Okay. So I mean, but you know, that's still. I mean, like I said, your co-stars in some of your movies that you've done has just been amazing. Um, so
I do.
what did you think of your first experience? I mean, you know, well, your first role was that spoken word, right? That's where you played the mother. So that must have been really. You're only 21 when you did that. Wow.
Okay. So that was an interesting thing that happened. I was still currently at UNM. They were auditioning for a role where they were looking for the mother of the main character in the film. Robert Baxter was the background casting director at that time, and he was doing auditions for this character because there wasn't dialogue. It was all flashback scenes. So it was still in this weird category of being a significant role because it was the mother of the main character, but not necessarily, you didn't have lines to become SAG eligible. So anyways, I get cast. It's actually an awesome day. Like they match like the earrings to the car. You understand the importance of like the gift that the father is giving his son, you know, because the car reminds him of his long lost wife. So the character is dead in current time. So that's why it's such a memory of such a young age too. So they had a green screen behind it, and it was really beautiful. Like the way they shot it, you know, me and the character that was playing the father, like just we had great chemistry. And I was like, there's no way, like this is awesome. Like I couldn't have asked for a better part. I'm still in school. Technically, like because everything is participation credit, like we were not allowed to really audition or participate for anything, because if we weren't in class, then we weren't going to pass the class. So there was no way of really getting like on-set experience prior to graduating, which that's something else, and I don't agree with that process. But anyways, whenever it came out, all of a sudden I was Googleable, right? Like you could type in my name and it was like Monique Candelaria, spoken word, Monique Candelaria, mama, you know. So I was excited. I got invited to see the premiere of it. So I went, and I couldn't wait to see the story. And I realized that I'm not in it. I'm not in it at all. And I didn't know what to make of it. Like, of course, the normal of like, like, did I do something, or, did I mess up, or did it play better in my head than it really was, or what? And one of the directors / producers came up to me, and they were just like, I want you to know that we absolutely loved your work. Loved everything that you did. But basically, we ran out of funds, and we didn't have the money to change out the green screen. So we had no choice but to scrap the scene.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But it was one of those, like, it was also my first experience of like, telling people that I'm Googleable now. Hey, I got cast in this. I'm the mom, like blah, blah, blah. And to watch it and it not be there. So like getting 100 questions of like, hey, I thought you were in this movie. I didn't see you in it. And having to explain it and to be like, this is what happened.
Yeah. Well, your name, they kept your name in the credits, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
wow. That's
again, it was a good experience, and it taught me a valid lesson too of don't even talk about a project, honestly. And until you have seen it and for sure you're in it, don't talk. Because I can say that feeling of realizing that I was Googleable on a project that I was not in was not a good feeling. It wasn't a good feeling at all.
No, terrible.
Yeah. So the first
Well,
film I actually got SAG eligible on was Bless Me Ultima. And Bob Baxter was actually the one that got me in to do a personal audition for the director. Actually, the director didn't want me initially. Well, it was like they saw my headshots. He basically had gone to Robert Baxter of like, if you know anybody that you think, deserves a chance, like to get this opportunity to become SAG eligible and to move up in their career, I would love to see them. So it was improv. Basically, like they're like, you have one of these three roles, and it was like there's three of the main women that are in the film. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be great, like great start. So I go in there, I do my thing. In fact, what was ironic, I totaled my partner's car back then, so she had gone with me, and she had never taken an acting class in her life, but Bless Me Ultimo was like one of the only books that she ever read in school, and she loved it. Like, it's just a cultural book that everyone should read, honestly. But anyways, she's there. Bob Baxter comes out and he's like, oh, is she ready? And I was like, oh yeah, she's ready. And he's like, all right, I'll go ahead and let I'll let Carl Franklin know. So Simone looks at me and she's like, what are you
Carl
doing?
Franklin, the director?
Yeah, Carl Franklin was the director.
Yeah, African American guy, right?
Yep.
Oh my God, that Carl Franklin from
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was like
Incredible
my
Journey.
first experience of like auditioning in front of a director, and it was him.
Yeah, he was an actor before. He did a lot of TV in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And he also did God, he translated to a director. He did oh God, I forget what his name is, but it was a great acclaim. It had Bill Paxton in it, I believe. Or Bill Pullman. I know who you're talking about. Wow, that's great. I love his work.
Me too. He was a beautiful person to be on set with. I have tons of stories from this too, but for this one, I went in, did my audition, come out. Bob Baxter asked if Simone's ready. Simone's looking at me like I'm crazy, like she wouldn't even go into an acting class of mine. She got a BA in international business, a BA in finance, and a minor in Spanish. So she's a smart cookie, but acting, she had never done it because she's shy. Well, anyways, I was like, look, you already don't have the part. And this is a film that you've always loved. It's improv. Go in, have a good time. The opportunity came, take it. So she went in and she actually got cast before I did. They called her within that next week and they're like, you're cast. You are one of, like, you're a part of the family, like the main core family, which actually got, most of the family scenes did get deleted, which is really unfortunate. But anyways, they picked her right away and I hadn't gotten the call, and Bob basically told me, he's like, look, he loves what you do. He's like, but basically the comment that I was too Hollywood looking. And so Bob had told him, he's like, well, you need at least one good looking prostitute. Why don't you throw her in as a prostitute? So I did end up getting cast as a prostitute. And I was very grateful that they just gave me my name. So that way on my resume, it wasn't, prostitute.
Right.
So I'm just Monique as Monique, which was nice. But yeah, even inside that film, I got to work with Raul Castillo. And he just came out in that zombie film that hit Netflix that was like all over the place. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Army of the Dead.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's crazy because he's still a good friend of mine. We keep in touch with each other and we basically just like see how we're growing, honestly.
Wow, Carl Franklin. Yeah, he's a great director. I used to watch him. I'm really dating myself out here, but he was starting a really cool show. It's a cult favorite now, but it was called Fantastic Voyage, and it didn't last very long. It came out on CBS, and it was really cool. It was him and Roddy McDowell, and it was a lot of fun. Wow. Then he became a director. Hi, Katie. Oh wow, okay. So let me go here real quick. So, were you a little insulted though playing a prostitute? I mean, you just a throwaway like that, or were you just happy to be there?
No, I didn't feel like it was a throwaway. I didn't necessarily agree with the process on how they were calling us extra upgrades. So they knew that we were going to get lines, but they didn't want to pay us as actors at that caliber right away. So what they were doing was they were considering us as background and extra until the day that our lines came. As far as being a prostitute, like I do find that in a lot of like time period pieces, women didn't always have like the strongest parts in general. We're kind of the wives or the outcast or the mistress of sorts or hooker or, you know. So I think I was more like trying to decipher like what they meant by too Hollywood looking, especially since I'm from here. And I've never considered myself particularly girly. Like I've always been more of a tomboy like growing up. So it was more for self-discovery of like how, you know, our perception of what we see is very different than what other people see. And realizing that there was this difference in how I could shift that later. But I was grateful that Bob still was in my corner, and he did provide me that opportunity to become SAG eligible. Actually, Banshee chapter was where I became a must join. So I landed Bless Me Ultima in October of 2010. And then by January 2011, I was cast in a film called 10 Years, where I worked with Channing Tatum, Rosario Dawson, Justin Long, Anthony Mackie. You know, and that was an awesome experience in general, all the way around. Chris Pratt, I worked with Chris Pratt then. And then Banshee chapter came and they were like, all right, oh, you like getting that money, you know, for being a, you know, considered SAG? Cool. Well, now you're a must join and you have to pay in order to accept the role. So I actually didn't realize the budget of the Banshee chapter.
What do you mean you have to pay in order to join the role? Like you have to pay
I
membership
had to become union.
Okay.
If I wanted this union part, this was my third one, I needed to become a union member to actually be able to have the role.
Without getting too personal about that, was joining the union, was it more than what you got paid, or would it?
Yeah. I had to pay more than what I got, yeah, which was also a learning lesson. So for anybody who doesn't know, when I was first starting out, like, and you're doing background work, you pretty much know like where you get bumps, right? Like you have like the base rate, which is whatever, I think the minimum, or we were getting paid like 8 something an hour if your background, like it really is minimum wage, you know. If you are featured extra, it'll bump up to like $250. If you have a part that's nude, it's like $450 to $500. So that's roughly. And if you're doing stand-in work, you're getting paid like $12 an hour. Unfortunately, in the state that I'm in, doing roles like that where I'm doing background, we don't get union hours for that. So in California, they can do background and it can still be considered a union job. So they make their hours to qualify for health insurance. In New Mexico, background, stand-in, featured extra, all that stuff is just, I'm allowed to do it, but it's not considered union work. So therefore I don't get the hours. So I never qualify for health insurance.
Wow.
Yeah.
That ain't right. That's
I was getting to like the naked part. So here I got this part. My agent didn't tell me, you know, basically what the rate was. I thought it was like $800 for the day, which if they have a full budget, you know, that's typically what it is. I was getting there. It was an evening shoot. So I got there. They had already started paying me before I even saw the contract, because they don't give the contract prior to you getting there. And then I got to my room after already being painted and everything. And all of a sudden I saw I was getting like $300 and something an hour. And I was like, wait, what? Like that's lower than what an extra makes when they're doing a nude role. And here I'm a principal character. Like I'm actually cast. So I tried getting a hold of my agent. She wouldn't answer. So I called SAG and I was like, hey, like, I'm on set. They've already painted me. I'm looking at my contract and it's $300. Like, I don't see any bump for being nude. And she's like, oh, your background. And I was like, no, I'm actually part of the cast. And then she's like, oh yeah, honey, if you're part of the cast, it's a flat rate for whatever tier they're on. And unless your agent negotiates it, you don't get more than that. So for whatever reason, it's in place that when you are just considered background or extra, they have standard bumps. Each extra thing that you do has an extra amount attached to it. So whether it's a smoke bump, cold bump, nude bump, like there's bumps. But when you are a principal character, all that goes out the window. So if you belong to a market where the agents don't necessarily have the ability to negotiate these things, you basically get taken advantage of and you don't get anything extra because it's not already part of SAG rules. Just get the extra for the extra thing that you're doing.
So you're caught between a rock and a hard place.
Correct. So it was what it was. I had already paid SAG. I was already a union member and I couldn't get a hold of my agent and the contract was already negotiated for what it was, which was just base.
So needless to say, at the end of the story, you got a new agent.
Not too long after. Yeah, I did end up getting a new agent.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, yeah. Unfortunately, for when you're an agent, it's just like a talent buyer. You have to be available 24/7 for anything that comes up. I mean, I know they have their hours or whatnot, but when you work with a client like yourself, there's no off time when you're an agent. There just isn't.
But honestly, like, let's say I had even gotten a hold of her because of where I'm at, like, because the agents here, they kind of do walk on eggshells. They're trying to get us cast. We're considered a small market. And it's kind of the perk of why they're casting us, that they can not have to pay those extra fees because basically the agent doesn't have the room to negotiate it.
Wow. Yeah, that's just, ooh, that just rankles.
But you know what's sad is I brought it up. I became like an advocate for, you know, the union here, you know, and I was like, no, people need to know these things. Like, they need to know what's happening and what's going on. That way we can change the contract. These are things that need to be changed in the contract. You know, there needs to at least be a base rate. If your agent can negotiate a higher rate on top of the bump, good for you. But no one should have to do more for the bare minimum,
right?
When somebody else is getting paid way more if they were cast out of LA, you know. So it's I even brought this up at one of the W&W like working in wages seminars, and it was amazing to me how many women were like, who's going to put a price on like what my boobs are worth or what my butt is worth? And I'm like, honey, right now there is no price. It's zero.
Yeah.
Like, if you're cast, it's zero, aside from what the already base rate for someone who doesn't have to take off their clothes. So unfortunately, they didn't understand. And I really think that it boils down to experience. Like, I just so happen to have a personal experience of going through this and realizing that I had no room to negotiate anything, you know, where others don't know because it hasn't happened to them.
We got two boys in their pops saying bye agent, and Timothy saying, yeah, do you have a new agent now? Yeah. But I think overall, as far as the nudity thing goes, it seems to be less and less now. I mean, there's like less nude parts. That people aren't casting nudity anymore.
Are you kidding me? Have you watched Westworld? Have you watched most films? I feel like
I watched a ton. I mean, horror films love to have their nudity.
Yeah,
I can't tell you the last movie that's been released within the last 2 to 3 years that has any nudity. And you know, like the old, like we just watched Friday the 13th, and there's a scene in there that could have been in any, you know, it would have been fine in any adult film. You know, it was like a 30-second shot of a girl, you know, topless, and it's like, I just thought because after the Me Too movement, people, actors, I mean, directors and producers and studios decide to move away from that because it's a little bit of a danger zone now,
No, they got oh my gosh, what's the word for it? Because I had one. It's called an intimacy coordinator. So when I was on Lovecraft Country, now there's an intimacy coordinator.
Yeah, I've heard that term. What is an intimacy coordinator? Is that just someone who tells you where to put your hands during the scene?
No. So basically, this person is involved from beginning to end, as far as also relaying what you're being asked to do from the beginning. That way, there's full communication. So like for Lovecraft Country, I did speak to an intimacy coordinator that made sure that I understood that I was going to be wearing a prosthetic that had both male and female genitalia, that I was going to be performing nude for a good portion of the beginning. Basically asking my comfort level, how I feel about everything, what I need to feel safe, what, there's a lot of communication that's involved. Then on set, even whenever I'm in the makeup room, anytime there is somebody working with me and I am not clothed, that intimacy coordinator has to be there. They also have to be there when I am on set. So in other words, at no point am I ever alone. Am I ever at the mercy of,
I like that.
Of others. So yeah, basically you always have your buddy. It's like a buddy system. You have somebody who understands where you're at, what you're comfortable with, and they're there to advocate for you and make sure that when you're not performing, that they bring you a robe, that you're not just there.
I take it most of these coordinators are all female as well.
I don't know. I mean, that was the first time that I had ever worked with an intimacy coordinator. And she did happen to be a female, but I guess it depends, right? Like, I guess, I mean, I am seeing more naked men too, so I'd be curious if they do assign gender to gender.
I mean, for every man that's naked, though, there's going to be 9 women that aren't. I mean, that are, for every 9, for every 9 women naked, there's 1 guy. I would think so. That's actually, I mean, you think that would be something the assistant director would handle, but I guess because of what's been happening in the past, they decided to not leave that responsibility with somebody whose mind is probably divided with 1,000 other tasks, and just hire a dedicated professional. Wow. That's actually a you know what? It sounds silly when you say it in a sense, intimacy coordinator, like what? Right. But you know what? It seems like a very good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I genuinely was appreciative to just know that someone was in my corner and that I didn't have to take any unnecessary risks.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the perk about being union, and the reason why I would advocate for it. Like with horror films, like even the Control Group, that was the first time that I worked out of state. I have no friends out there. I have no family out there. We're going to be shooting at an abandoned insane asylum. Like, that's a lot of trust. I'm getting on a plane to meet up with a stranger for over a month and nobody knows where I'm at. So even for them, like, they didn't have it greenlit with SAG-AFTRA that it was officially a union film until, like I said, an hour before I was supposed to be on my flight. So I was firm in my decision that unless they gave me the okay saying that it was officially union, I wasn't getting on the flight. And I did let the director know, where I'm like, look, like, I'm literally just waiting for the okay, but I'm not going to get on a flight, where no one knows where I'm going and I don't know who I'm meeting, and I'm just trusting people.
That's scary. I mean, that's, to me, that's like your agent again needs to step up there and find out all the details. Like, okay, where's my client going? How can I reach her if I need to, other than her cell phone? What hotel are you putting her up at? I mean, I want to know all these things so I can contact her by the end of the first day and make sure everything's copacetic. I mean, that's something I would, I want half the money that, I don't know if they do that there, but I know that in music they do this, but I want half her money, that her salary, I want that forwarded to me. So now you're vested in it. Now that you give me half the salary, that, you're going to take care of my client. This is legitimate. I'm not going to send anybody somewhere like that without basically a safety net. I'm not going to do that. Wow, that's yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the control group because that is inadvertently that's I didn't know obviously, but that was the first time where we saw you. I saw you. I reviewed the movie, but that was a really interesting movie.
Yes, you know
Um,
what? I just realized that my phone now has like 16%. If I could grab a charger, because I would hate for it to
sure.
just be like,
No, no,
whoops,
go
and
ahead.
it's
I'll
just
keep
like
I'll
a,
keep talking to the chat while you do that.
yeah? Okay, perfect. Let me go find something that way I don't lose you guys. Okay.
All right. Thank you guys so much tonight. I will get to your questions too. A lot of the questions you guys are having, I definitely want to go back and ask her, but I think that they will probably fit what because I'm asking, a lot of the questions I haven't come up to, in the part where in her career. So I don't want to go bounce back and forth. That's the reason why I'm waiting. It's not that I'm ignoring you, of course. Um, but yeah, you guys are popping tonight. That's for sure. I like that. Bye bye agent from Two Boys and Their Pops. That's awesome. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that would suck. Um, see, Star Lord says he voted Games of Thrones, and it's not because of the dragons. I don't. Oh, you didn't. Okay, you don't watch though. Okay, I get it. I get it. Not every move. Not everybody. Believe it or not, not everybody likes to watch that nudity on what they watch on TV. I get that. A danger zone type of work. Yes. Wait till you hear about this movie we're going to be talking about now. Um, it's called it's called The Control Group, and this is a weird story, and it's one for the ages. Oh, and she's back. This is a cool one. Um, I'll tell you my part of it real quick. I reviewed this movie. I got it from Wild Eye. They sent it out to me. I reviewed it, and then on the back of it, they have commentary. You guys know it, I do. I love commentaries, and so I listened to the director, and they talked about making their movie, and it's the Wild Wild West. All right, Monique's back. So the not so control group, I guess. The bizarre. It's a little bit bizarre. It's one story I haven't seen since I've heard about it. So how did you hear about the movie anyway?
So I had done a Roswell Film Festival, um, where I play an alien. So inside one of the, again, on my Instagram, that little collage I put together, you see me like painted green. I look like an alien. Anyways, or more like an avatar probably of some sort. Um, one of my good friends that I ended up making on there was actually hired to create the website for the control group. It just so happened that Peter Hurd, the director, was talking to him, and he's like, "Look, I'm having such a hard time. Like, I'm trying to find a female that's attractive but still strong, that at least knows how to hold a gun, that's not going to look like an idiot. I want her to be a strong female. Like, I wrote it this way, kind of thing. And my friend Matt Badia was just like, I think I have someone for you. He's like, let me reach out to her. So I got this call, and he was just like, hey, he's like, I don't know if you're interested. It's going to be in Minnesota. He's like, and it's for a month. Basically your character is military slash, scientist, obviously like educated, but, part of this crazy experiment, which I was like, that already sounds like amazing. Right up like my alley. That's definitely something I vibe with. So he went and told Peter Hurd that I was interested, and he gave me sides for me to memorize, and I submitted my video audition, and within about a week to 2 weeks, I was cast. So
How old was Peter?
Peter,
Yeah, how
he's
old was he?
feel like he was younger than myself by
Yeah,
at least a couple years.
yeah, yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah. He was a young kid. He
Mhm.
had just, got out of film school. He was able to get the funding to bring in Brad Dourif, which I was excited to work with. One, he's the voice of Chucky, and he also is on Lord of the Rings, known as Mortongue. So I was ecstatic that that was even going to be an opportunity. But of course, I didn't know that until also a little bit later that he was part of the project. But yeah, like he basically was able to rent the Kirkbride Insane Asylum. It is abandoned. I was actually really sad. Like I found this area where there was a whole bunch of bat bones, and there was this part of me that was like, I need them. Like I'm gonna take them and clean them, and they're gonna be mine. And my friend was like, yeah, that's probably covered in a bunch of stuff. Like, unless you like clean that and dice this, don't go touch. I was like, no, of course, of course. And I had gotten all kinds of stuff so that I could like get it and clean it. And miraculously, it was all, I don't know who decided to sweep and clean that wing because we weren't shooting in it. But I didn't get my bat bones, and it hurt my feelings because I did actually want to go get it. But it was actually
on the phone now.
huh?
Get my agent on the phone now.
Right now, how dare you guys take away my bat bones? Oh, I'm so sad. You have no idea. And I make jewelry. So like even then I was like, I can make myself some cool pieces with those bat bones. I do have awesome photos. There was one where the body is like downward and its head is completely like facing backwards. It didn't even make sense to me like how it happened. Yeah, I have like the most interesting pictures from that place. So I definitely went exploring, but we did have to be mindful because it was a hospital. At one point, there are a lot of doors that will open for you, but as soon as they close, they lock.
Ooh.
So there was a crew that was in before us where a gentleman went exploring on his own without telling anybody. And he got locked in an area, and it took him about 2 days to find him.
No way.
So they were really adamant that you needed a buddy system. You needed to let people know like where it was you were exploring. But yeah.
That's a movie right there in itself.
Yeah. No, it was intense. The whole experience was amazing. Working with Brad Dourif was interesting because he is ADD. He is all over the place. He paces a lot. He memorizes all his lines before even getting to the set. And as you know, they were changing the script literally like the night before. Like we would get off around like 8:30. I would eat dinner. I would work out. I'd start working on my lines at 10. I'd work on them from 10 until 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd wake up at 6. I'd get everything that I needed. They'd take me to set. And then I think I'm all prepared and ready to go. And they were like, oh yeah, by the way, so we just wrote like all of the scene and see like this whole like paragraph thing or all that stuff you worked on. We're not doing that today. And I was like, no, you can't do that to me. Like I spent 4 hours on this last night. Now you want me to learn this whole other scene. I have never memorized so fast in my life. There was like some awkward, like where I'm, walking down the hall with this walkie-talkie saying third eye, blah, 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 like technical terms. It was like a tongue twister for me that day. And they had switched the scene also that day too, where I was just like, no, I just want to be able to do my job. And I don't know like what I'm doing.
And the reason why she's mentioning this is because the director and the producer of this movie in the commentary, they said that they did this. They said, of course, they did it after Brad left. They didn't do it while he was there. And you can explain that.
Well, Brad straight up told them that he learned what they had provided him and he was not going to change that. That was the bottom line. In fact, there was a mess up with my name. As you notice, everyone's calling me Heather, which is not normal for someone who's in the military to be called by a first name. And they acknowledged, because that was like one of the first things where I'm like, did you guys intentionally mean to like name me Heather? Like that doesn't follow suit, And they were like, oh, well, we can just give you a last name, and everyone can call you by the name. And I was like, okay. So then they told Brad Dourif about it, and he was like, nope, she will always be Heather to me. That is the way I learned it, and that is what she will stay. So I remain being Heather throughout the film. So
yeah, they didn't do that. They didn't do that. They even said that on the commentary that they did not do that while he was there. They waited till after he's gone. And then they would overnight, they'd be sitting there doing rewrites all night. And it was just like, wow, I don't know how anybody could work underneath those conditions every day, walked up there and go like, oh, by the way, this is what we're doing. It would be just so maddening to me. It's like, you know how hard it is to memorize what she gave us. And then you want us to learn it overnight, over and over and over again. I'm surprised there wasn't a mutiny.
I think we were all excited. Like to be there, and to work, and it was an interesting environment. And for me, it was a learning experience, like all the way around, of like, how far could I push myself? You know, and at that time, like I was saying that I eat for my blood type. They actually did, they were really super kind, like on set. Like before we got there, they were like, does anybody have food allergies? They really did get amazing cooks that did do everything gluten-free. And basically, to eat for my blood type, it's red meat, you know, my protein and greens. So it's not particularly hard, just a protein source and greens, whole food. And no wheat, no dairy. And no, they actually they did it. It was beautiful. Where was I getting with that though? Sorry, I'm ADHD as well. So
Did you have any? Did you and Brad Dourif ever have any time to talk by, you know, among yourselves? Did you ask him any questions or anything like that?
oh yeah. So he has the ability to just cry on demand. I mean, it is amazing to see him work. I will say that he's consistent. Like who he was when he started acting is exactly who he was when I was working with him. It was like nothing had changed. He also did divulge that he refuses to watch himself. He will not watch anything that he's ever been in. Which I think that's awesome, like that he's kept that consistency and he's true to himself. But I can also see where he hasn't changed, you know, like he is just himself, because it's not until you see yourself and see something that you dislike that you change it. And even for my role in the control group, when I watched it, I'll say I'm consistent, you know, as far as like my temperament throughout the thing.
Right.
But I really didn't like the fact that I didn't, like, obviously a character is written a certain way, but as an actor, it's our job to also bring those undertones of humor and character and lightheartedness sometimes, and you know, developing those characters to be more than what they were just written as. And personally, I didn't feel for myself that I executed that well. I felt that my character was kind of one note, and that I didn't find those nuances. So now, like, I actively do try to find those lighthearted moments, those moments of compassion, those moments where I'm not a hard person, those moments of vulnerability, which I did not have in the
I think we
control.
were really hard on that shoot though, because of the way they changed the script all the time. It's hard to get into any sort of rhythm or emotion when, you know, it's like, okay, wait, that's not what I wait a minute, what? You know, it's like it
Yeah.
throws you off. I can't imagine that being like that. It's like you preparing for a math test and they turn around, they give you a history test.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, well, wait a minute, I didn't prepare for that. I prepared for, I prepared for math, not history. You know, and then, and wow. But I mean, but you got to tell us a story about the crying. I like this story. How he took you aside and to show you the
Yeah.
secret.
So I had told him, I was like, how do you do that? Like, how do you get yourself so, like, to bring tears for scenes that don't even require it, to find that undertone or layer of emotion? And he's like, follow me, because we actually were taking a break. So he took me to the side room, and basically he just did a meditation with me. He's like, sit back in this chair, plant your feet on the floor. He basically walked me through relaxing my whole body, filling it up with this purple fluid, and then he told me to envision this happy place, just for me to envision a happy place, and it could be anything. And I'm not gonna lie, like, at that moment, like, what popped into my head was just me sitting in the front yard, reading a book under the tree, and seeing my friends come down the street, and that was my happy place. So anyways, he asked me to tell him what that was. I told him what it was. And then he tells me, he's like, you know why that's your happy place, right? And I was like, why? And he goes, because you don't have it anymore and you never will. It was like, whoa, like I felt like I got smacked like in the face. Like all of a sudden I started crying, and I guess it was true. Like, right? Like, I mean, you end up becoming an adult, and you'll never be a kid where there's just that freedom to sit under a tree without worry, without thinking of the past or the future, but literally just being in the present. And oh my God, I couldn't stop it. It just was like streaming down, and they're like, all right, back in 5. And I was like, I'm not in the right state of mind for this. I mean, I can't, you know, so I have had to use it because I am actually kind of twisted in emotion. You know, there's a lot of times where you'll see a scene where someone dies, or, you know, there's some form of death, and, you know, this river of tears kind of thing is supposed to happen. And those things don't make me cry. I actually get quite tactical in my response of like, how did this happen? What happened? Who's responsible? Like, who do I need to go and like talk to? Like, you know, basically my brain goes into like this very strategic, tactical mode. So I don't naturally just go to tears. However, let somebody compliment me. Let somebody say that, you know, that they appreciate my energy and that I made their day, and all of a sudden I'm crying. You know, and I think honestly, it's just that I don't expect a lot from people. So when they show, wow, see, I get emotional. When they show me genuine emotion like that, where they're appreciative of my work, I suddenly get emotional. So I get emotional with happy stuff. So what he showed me was in direct alignment with how I actually respond. And it also helped without having to get into a state where you are depressed, right? Like I don't have to enter a state of depression to cry. Not to say that what I'm thinking about doesn't make me cry, but it's the actual love. Like you have to realize that when you're crying, the reason you're crying is because there is love and compassion behind what's happening. And when you can connect with that, it just flows. You know, so what he taught me was just incredibly invaluable for everything, that I've had to work on.
I'll get some questions here. Let me come up here and ask a little bit. Let's see. Everybody likes Chucky. Let's see. I want to see if there's some more questions here. Let's see. Two boys. Hollywood is in the business of making money, and for some films, nudity is part of the business Hollywood wants. Yeah, I guess maybe there's more. Maybe there's a little bit more than I realized, because I have, you know, of course, I don't look for it, but I have not. I didn't know that there was a. I thought nudity and was actually retreating. I thought because of the, you know, the Weinstein thing. I thought people were just afraid of it, you know, not putting it in their movies anymore. Let's see. Timothy's asking, do you still have the ability to cry on cue now after learning that great tip?
No, I usually still have to run dialogue through my head that is, so I will reform, whether I'm doing substitution or creating like correlations to the character, so that way I can still stay in scene but be present. So that way when they're talking with me, I'm not in some weird backspace. I mean, how many scenes? Oh, you know, there's a movie that just came out with oh, what's her name? She played Electra. Can't remember her name.
Jennifer Garner.
Jennifer Gardner. And did you see this new movie that just the
No,
Adam?
I'm a huge fan of Jennifer Garner, and I like Electra. I'm one of the 5 people actually will admit that.
Anyways, she just came out on this, the Adam Project, and there's a scene where she's in the bar talking to her son that has come back to visit, and he's basically talking to her in his adult form, and she doesn't realize it's her son. There's no tears in that scene, but they are so authentic in their delivery of the lines and being true to the character that you as the observer do cry. So when I view acting, it's about authenticity and being genuine to the story and dialogue that's coming through. There's plenty of actresses that I've worked with and seen that can just cry. I mean, literally, like tears just stream down. They don't even have to think about it. But I also don't feel connected. There is something that's like inherently false about it. I can see the tear, but I'm not moved to emotion. So as a performer myself, I don't like to necessarily go that route either, because I don't think it's about the tears themselves, but the communication behind the story.
I agree.
That make sense? Okay.
That makes sense. You know, I want to continue to talk, but but I don't think we're going to get to where I wanted to go because we are. But we are gonna talk about that. I'm going to bring you back sooner than probably any other guest I've ever had. But I'm going to bring you back. But we're going to still talk a little bit longer because I'm really enjoying this. But the big conversation I want to talk to, I want to, you know what? I'll probably just talk to you offline, but I want to bring you back because I would definitely want to address that because that is a concern. Because we're all movie fans here. We all love film. We're all here for it. We admire the people who bring us, the artists that bring us the movies and the people that work hard. And I think it needs to be addressed. But I just want to keep this around such a good time. But I definitely want to come back and talk to you about it if you're all right with that.
Of course.
Good.
Yeah,
good.
no, I mean, I think it's a valid. I mean, I could do a quick run through if you would like of the current predicament. So
yeah, let's do this. Okay, let's chop it up. Let's chop
Okay.
up let's see if we can do it like I said, I know you're busy and whatnot, and I don't want to overextend you, and I can always bring you back. But I want people to hear this because this really sucks.
Yeah.
So you're a hardworking actress. You work really hard, but you've lost some jobs. You lost some roles,
Right.
and not because of ability.
Correct. So 2019 was a great year for me as far as I was #1 on the cast list for Driftless, which now I know that some of you guys that are watching, have seen. And I was also in Lovecraft Country, episode 4, and it was one of the hardest and most exhilarating experiences of my life of being challenged in every capacity that there was, from learning a language that's been dead since the 18th century, speaking it, for over 3 minutes at that, as a part of the dialogue, performing naked, performing with a prosthetic that had both, female and male genitalia, to having underwater scenes. Like, there is no aspect that, as an actor, like, you want to be challenged. You want those things, to really like invigorate you. So here I had like all these beautiful moments in 2019 where I was like, I can't wait for it to come out, and it's such great momentum. Like, I kind of felt like when you're going up a roller coaster and you're expecting, like, right as you get to the top, for it to be like finally that downward slope that you've been waiting for. While we all know that, the situation of the world, COVID-19 became prominent and rocked our worlds. So as you know, initially they closed everything. There was nothing that was up and running. They had to figure out different rules, regulations in order to get things going. Even still in 2020, I did work on, sorry, a project called Spirit Rangers, which is a cartoon that's going to be on Netflix, where I play a Mama Thunderbird. And I did get cast in like a vampire film. Well, then come 2021, suddenly they have a vaccine. Okay, so there's this agreement that came out, and it's called the Right to Work Agreement. Essentially what it is they're saying that anybody that's in this A zone, so if you're an actor, you're definitely in the A zone, and you have to be vaccinated. They don't take into consideration if you've already been infected, in which natural immunity is way more effective than just a vaccine, because the vaccine will deteriorate over time versus naturally acquiring it, and it stays with you. So anyways, I am more of a naturalist. I do personally don't like to put unnecessary things in my body. I had already been exposed before it became acknowledged, a thing that everybody acknowledged. My entire family got sick with COVID December of 2019 and January of 2020. So anyways, long story short, this right to work agreement. So at first you're thinking like it's just the directors and casting directors that are putting these regulations on people. It's not, guys. It's a lot deeper than that. So these productions, if they want to get insurance, because should someone come up positive with COVID, they have to shut down for a certain amount of days. Well, the insurance companies are saying, unless all of your A zone is vaccinated, then we're not covering you. So it's not just your agent, and it's not just, casting directors that have their own personal views of what's right and wrong. Essentially, they're saying that you have to, otherwise you don't get insurance. So I did call my union and I was like, how can you guys support this? So SAG-AFTRA had said, well, we support you guys getting work. We don't necessarily support this. And I was like, but this violates so many of our rights. So they ended up transferring me to the law department. And I had ended up bringing up, I'm like, look, what about the Nuremberg Code? We know that this isn't a trial phase, like all of these vaccines, until 2022 to 2023. There is no future data on how it affects people of different ethnicities, different backgrounds, age groups, whether it interferes with different medications, if somebody's already immune compromised. Like, there's plenty of reasons to be cautious because there's no data. I was like, when there is risk, we have to have choice. I was like, that's what also the Nuremberg Code is in place for. It's an experiment. We need to be able to say yes or no. And they said that because it was under an EUA, that it did not fall under the Nuremberg Code. So I said, well, what about HIPAA laws? I was like, it's not okay for someone to be asking, like, you don't go up to somebody and say, hey, do you have AIDS? No, there's laws that were put in place because of the AIDS pandemic. Oh, epidemic, sorry. So it's like, wait, let me get this right, guys. Like, there's a lot of things that I've had to kiss multiple people on screen, and not once, I can genuinely say, not once have they ever said, hey, do either of you guys have any past medical history of having, herpes of the mouth? Do you guys have any viruses that you could transmit to one another? There's never been this conversation. Then also our union decided that, so that in order for you to qualify for the health insurance, you either have to have so many hours or you have to make so much. So like I said, I'm in a state that you can't just get hours by doing background, and there's not enough roles in order for me to meet the hours in my state. But basically, instead of it just being around like $30,000 a year that you had to make in order to qualify, they doubled it. So Sharon Stone missed it by $13 of not getting health insurance because they upped it to $60,000 in a pandemic. So it's like, so you guys say that you guys are caring about our health, but you guys upped what we have to, like, there's no work. There's not even the amount of work as before. Now we have less work, and you're making it that we have to make more money in order to even qualify. And now I can't work. So I cannot be cast in any film, any voiceover project that is not union. Not one. I cannot do it. And yet most of the projects that are here, we just know that Netflix came into New Mexico and they're mandating that pretty much everybody does have to be vaccinated. So what happened this last year, I did end up landing a really large, like, supporting role on this film. Well, so I called, sorry, and there's still more to this. I talked about the Nuremberg Code. I talked about HIPAA. They said that it wasn't a violation because they don't ask us. Like, they're not allowed to ask us about vaccination status until we're hired. And I was like, that's not true though. I was like, because every time I'm getting an audition, they're asking me for my slate. Like, hi, my name is Monique Candelaria, and I am not currently vaccinated. I was like, at that point, that leaves room for discrimination. They can swipe my audition to the side and not even watch my performance. And they said, no, they're not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to ask you for vaccination status until after you're hired. I was like, they're not doing that though. They're like, well, then you have to report them. So then they ended up like giving me information so that way I can report, every film, casting call, film production that's basically asking prior to hiring. So I end up auditioning for this part. They end up giving me a deal memo. I get cast. Everything is set to go. And then all of a sudden they go, oh, we forgot to ask you, what is your vaccination status? I was like, I'm not vaccinated. I was like, I'll need an exemption. And they said, sorry, we're not accepting any exemptions. So there wasn't even room for me. It's not like, oh, I submitted an exemption and I got denied. There was no room for an exemption to begin with. So of course I ended up sending, the paperwork to SAG, and I'm like, look, like, that is like, I literally just lost. And they're like, well, they should pay you for that time, for the amount of time that they were going to hire you. They should pay you for that work because you were hired. Well, yeah. They didn't. So I didn't get money from that. Then I had, so in fact, the intimacy coordinator that I worked with up for Lovecraft Country, she was going to work on a project in Michigan. And because Driftless was shot in Michigan, and it had shown around there, like actually had they were interested in me. So they actually contacted my agent. It was a role offer, and it was top billed cast. It was a beautiful role where, anyways, I don't want to say any part of the story. Top billed cast. They got all the deal memo set up. We negotiated everything, and then about a week and a half after that, they were like, "Oh, well, come January, 2022, everybody has to be vaccinated." And they're like, "We don't want to make you feel forced, so we understand, if you don't want to." And I was like, "I'll just need an exemption." And that's when I got the same answer. "Sorry, no exemptions allowed." So unfortunately, this right to work agreement has been extended. Not enough I think, well, I'm seeing it as well. There was a lot of actors that saw that it was an opportunity for them to be cast over others that maybe were getting roles ahead of them. So they used it as a positive thing in order to get more opportunities. Well,
So
with that being,
having a unified union would have stopped this in its tracks, at least provided some exceptions. But instead, what they did was they basically fractured your union, and people were just basically stepping on you by your beliefs and your ideals. They're stepping on that in order to get the part that you had won. Yeah.
I mean, and I, for whatever, I mean, we don't know everything that they were talking about or negotiating. All I know is that's another project that did not pay me for the time that they had hired me for, which the rep that was on there did send me an email saying that is something that they should do. And when I asked, that way it doesn't look bad on my agent, having to reach out and say, "Hey, like, she still needs to be paid for that. Like, the production should take responsibility for making a decision in this way," and reach out that way. And no, it didn't happen that way.
It really, when you put it in the context, it really drives it home is when you put it in context of when you're doing intimate scenes, like that, like you said, a kiss scene, or it's like, right, no one's going to stop the scene beforehand and say, "Yeah, has these guys been tested for genital herpes or oral herpes or any STDs
or AIDS?"
Or AIDS. No one's ever done that.
No.
You just go there and they expect you to go ahead and swap spit. Even though you don't technically do that, but
no, I'll definitely say when I was cast with Anthony Mackie, we swapped spit.
Okay, wow, man, yeah. You macked with the Falcon. Damn, respect.
I mean, she was like the whole threesome scene for 10 years. If you actually watch like some of the ending stuff, the cut out scenes.
Yeah,
that was a funny story in general. But anyways, the right to work agreement has been extended. Everyone needed to have either their third or fourth shot by March 15th, and then they're re-looking it over April 22nd of this year.
Well, we just got word here in Michigan and today that I guess it might be nationwide, but I know I saw it in Michigan on the Michigan site that they just now approved the fourth booster shot for people over 50. I've taken my first 2 shots. I won't take more. I'm not going to take any more. I've taken my first 2. I'm just going to live with that. Maybe in 6 months or so, I might come back and revisit it. But for right now, or better yet, I'm not going to probably do anything until they come up with some sort of a treatment plan. I just think it really just, the way you put it right there, that really is, really quite honestly, is what's the difference? I mean, what's the difference? I mean, whether it gets this, you got to be vaccinated for COVID. Well, what's the difference for me not being vaccinated for anything else? You're not asking me about that. So
right. I know they're saying spread, but we learned that it doesn't matter if you're vaccinated, you can still catch and spread. So, especially with the different, variations of it.
I just think that you're right. The speed of the vaccinations, it's, they were trying to stop it and slow it down so fast that they're trying to, I guess it was a pariah victory. Look, we had 800,000 people die in 2019, and now we only had 300,000 die in 2020. yay us, you're right. But
Well,
still,
what's crazy is we only have a fourth of the population of the world, and yet we have the highest death rates. And that also has to do with them not providing a treatment, something that we can do to treat ourselves so that way we don't get it, which they could have done with. Anyways, we don't need to get into technical terms of that, but there's no treatment to just help people prevent. They should have been teaching people right from the beginning that vitamin D is a hormone. If your vitamin D is not where it should be, then any virus around, not just, COVID-19, any virus, you're susceptible to. So we should be getting, at least 10 minutes of sun a day. They didn't teach like, hey, you guys are at home, but you know what? We're going to give you guys free gym memberships that you guys can go in for a slot 2 days out of the week. That way you guys are detoxing your bodies and getting healthy. Or, hey, you know what? We want you to stay home. We're going to send you a very simple care package, but we don't want anybody leaving. That way you guys do stay home. You guys actually have the nutrients that you need. You guys will lose weight probably, because then you don't have the ability to be gluttonous.
Okay.
There's a lot of areas that we did not go over. So it's like, if you're actually talking about health, we went all wrong.
Yeah, we just didn't have, you and I were talking about this yesterday, and that really basically comes down to we had zero leadership when this happened. Nobody took charge for nothing. They stood by and watched the first 800 go. No problems. I mean, I do think though that now that they have slowed it down, I do think they could slow it down further and take their time. And as far as testing goes, I agree with you on that. I think now it's listen, the first 2 shots, that should buy you enough time. That should buy you enough time to come up with at least a basic treatment plan. At least.
Do you think testing Omicron, or the one where it was inevitable that we were going to come across it because of its ability to spread so quickly, and it wasn't as detrimental as the initial one, but that gave
tidal wave. After tidal wave comes, the first 2 waves, the first 3 waves, it's still coming, but the 4th wave is a little smaller, the 5th wave is a little smaller, then
it gives you antibodies for all of them. It doesn't just stop there. The problem is, well, no, we're not, again, sorry. I'm trying to these are conversations that with my loved ones, and we can have true debate on all aspects. But I do, essentially, I think we all respond from a place of trauma. It really does depend on what our experience has been and where we feel we are in the situation. And that does dictate our actions. The only thing that I'll say is that where there is risk, there should be choice. So I understand that there is something that is affecting everyone globally, but with no data to support any which way, we're essentially going to have to make decisions based on what we feel is right for our own well-being. And only we know what our history is, what our ethnic background is, what we're already susceptible to, what our allergies are, what are, so I can't. To me, it's all about body sovereignty, and really it's we have to allow people to make that choice. I don't stop people from smoking. If they want to smoke, and it's possible that they can end up, having oxygen later in life, that could be something where they're going to the hospital because their lungs aren't working. We don't stop them from smoking. If somebody ends up with cancer and they choose to go a holistic route instead of doing chemo, we're not at liberty to say which route you go through. If somebody wants to eat until they have such severe diabetes and they don't want to check their blood and they start losing their toes or parts of their body, that's their choice. And that's essentially what I'm going to boil it down to, is that if we're looking at the number 1 killers, it's honestly heart health, and the vaccines aren't helping with that.
So I just want to let you guys know that was coming. We talked about it. Now we're gonna go and we're gonna finish this strong. And there's some people asked a couple of questions, and then I'll get you out of here. Let's see. Timothy says you're an absolutely phenomenal guest, Monique. Thank you for sharing your experiences tonight. Thank you for listening, Timothy, and watching. 2 Boys and Their Pop says, what would you be your dream collaboration? I don't know. She made out with the Falcon. What else is there? Okay, so what's
dream? So I love Tim Burton. I really, really, really do. If I could ever be a voice of a character and collaborate on a storyline that, you know, obviously has a very unique and particular style, that has always been something that I would be ecstatic
Oh,
to do.
all
So it's
right.
not for me about fame. If nobody recognized me at all and didn't even know what I look like I would not be bothered by that. Like if I was just a voice actor, that would be totally fine with me.
Let's see. And then Timothy wants to know what are your upcoming projects that we can see you in? Well, right now, that is on hold. We'll have to see what happens. So hopefully that'll get changed sometime soon. Um, let's see. Monique is an Avenger. Yes, I like that. Yes, I see you getting a lot of mileage out of the Anthony Mackie kiss. Um,
Oh, he was awesome. Honestly, he is right. He is like the young Eddie Murphy. Every single scene, it was so a lot of the scenes we were in didn't make it because he's consistently cracking jokes and he's not consistent in the joke every single time. So we were rolling the entire time because it was always something different. It was hilarious. But I'm pretty sure it gave the editor a freaking meltdown because to try and create continuity with something where no one's moving the same, the dialogue is completely different. That's its own set of hassles. But his personality is amazing. Chris Pratt's personality is amazing and wholesome. Rosario Dawson, I mean, she treated us like she had known us like her whole life. We really got to hang out even outside of just being on set, and their energy is just captivating. Oscar Isaac, I mean, he has a beautiful energy to him too.
You hear that, Oscar Isaac? That's Moon Knight for all of us fanboys out there. Uh, we're all comic book geeks too. Monique, I like to thank you for coming out and hanging out with us. I know that our time went over, but I'm very grateful for that you stayed and answered this and talked to us about this. I want to thank the chat. You guys were hot tonight. You asked some great questions. I really hope that you guys enjoyed the show. Of course, share it out, tell people about it. That'll be awesome. We will be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock with actress Nicole Vegas, and we'll go at it again. We'll chop it up again. Monique, awesome. Stay right where you're at, and to everybody else, unless you want to say goodbye to everybody.
No, I do. Thank
Okay.
you guys, everybody that has stayed here for the last 2 hours and 16 minutes. I definitely want to say that I am grateful. And as far as ways to just support me in my work, like I did learn a lot in these last 2 years. I paint now. I make wire wrapped jewelry. I became a certified stone practitioner. I genuinely love working with people and with energy and just bringing out everyone's best self. So definitely follow me. And I am writing. So when this chaos clears, I do intend to have other stories where I start creating my own content.
I will be putting all her social media down in the description box, so you guys can all go and follow her and on the various platforms that she's at, and stop by and say hi. Leave a comment down below if you wish. If you haven't subbed to my channel with me and the Cheetah, please consider doing so. That would be awesome. We're at 578. We need 22 to 6, so that'd be awesome if you guys could do that. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Until then, peace. Stay right
Peace.
where you at, Monique.